Hey everybody, this is Sean V. Bradley, CEO of Dealer Synergy and the creator of AutomotiveInternetSales.com, and I have a special guest right here, Dr. Willey Jolley. Say hello to everybody, sir.
It's a privilege and a pleasure to be able to be online and on the air with Sean V. Bradley.
The pleasure is really all mine. I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy store right now. It's just a blessing to have you here. So the first thing I wanted to say is congratulations. I heard that the article from Auto Success Magazine just went out. So it's going to go out to about 22,000 car dealerships.
Awesome. That's exciting. You know, I am so impressed with what you're doing and what you've done and how you have built this business and how you have helped companies to literally transform their businesses. I mean, double and triple their numbers. I'm looking at your numbers.
Thank you,
and that's
sir.
what I do is I look at numbers. And you have been doing that. These companies are growing exponentially.
Yes, sir. Thank you. But again, I've been blown away the more that I find out about what you've accomplished. And when I got to know you a little bit better when we were doing that interview, I was just kind of shocked at certain things I had no idea, like General Motors.
Yes.
And then the Ford situation. So let's just start from the top. So,
all right.
Willey, let's just get into the interview. Tell us a little bit about just your background. How did you get into speaking? Where did you start?
I was a nightclub singer who sang nightclub engagements in Atlantic City and Washington, D.C., up and down the Eastern Seaboard. And then I settled into a nightclub in Washington, D.C. and built it into the #1 night spot in D.C. Things were going great. One night I went into the nightclub. Club owner said, "We want to talk to you after the night's show." I told the guys in the band, they want to talk. We've been selling out for months. We got standing room only audiences. We're going to get our raise. Only to find out to my dismay that they wanted to release me from my employ. They decided that it was much more cost effective to get a karaoke machine than to have a band, because that was a better return on investments, and the only way they could get a better ROI was to lower costs, and the band's the biggest cost. And they said this karaoke concept is filling up nightclubs, and we're going to go with that. I said, but you know, I don't understand. I worked so hard. I built your company. I helped raise your visibility in the marketplace. I did everything right. I still got fired. You know, many people in America are in that same situation where they worked hard, they did their best, and they did good work, but they got fired. And it was in that moment that I had to make a decision. I remember somewhere I read that a success is a failure who gets angry enough to overcome their fears. And that's what I had to do, overcome my fears. And my fear was that all I could do was be a nightclub singer. And I decided to do something else to mix the singing with maybe something else, which was I learned later was speaking. Took a job with the school system as a drug prevention coordinator, used the music to capture the attention of the young people, and then started giving them a message about staying away from drugs and then from staying away from alcohol and making wise choices. And it just exploded because of the entertainment and the inspiration. And that led to me speaking to the teachers, and the teachers led me in speaking to their associations, and that led me coming to their churches, and that led me coming to their companies, and it just grew. And then Les Brown, the great motivator, heard about this guy who was mixing music and motivation, that was doing something different and across America, and he invited me to be on tour with him and Gladys Knight, and that led me to corporate America, and then from there to radio and television, and radio led me to books, and the books became bestsellers, which led me to more corporations, and it has just continued to grow.
Wow. There's so many different angles we could take this interview, but what just triggered a thought, and this is all freestyle for everybody out there, is what you just said about finding yourself in that situation where, like, you know, what do you mean I'm fired? I helped you build this. Do you realize that there's so many people in the automotive industry that are in it by circumstance? And this is something that's really interesting, is that a lot of people in the automotive industry do not grow up and say, you know what, I want to be a car sales professional. I want to sell cars. I want to work in the service department. Most people find that they're in the car industry because of circumstance. They've got terminated unexpectedly. They had no other options. And it's a very transient industry, unfortunately, almost like waiters and waitresses. But when they find some kind of success, they realize that the automotive industry is an incredible opportunity. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's go back to what you just said about being surprised, and How long did it take you from, losing your career and emotionally before you were able to say, like you said, get fed up with it to the point that you wanted to over?
Well, what I think is important, and that goes along right with what you just talked about with the automotive industry, is that many times people find their lives in a default position. Now, that default position depends on your attitude, whether it's going to be your success or your fallback. And so I decided that I was in this new position and that I could do it, and I could do it well. And I found that if I would take what I did well with a positive attitude and gave it all I had, then it would start to sprout wings and fly. And that's what it did. And so I want to say to those in the auto industry that a setback is set up for a comeback. And sometimes we have to be pushed out of our comfort zone to find our greatness, our giftings, our abilities, and our place of prosperity. And it was not, if I hadn't gotten fired, I would never have been able to start speaking and writing books. And I say many of them might have ended up in auto sales or auto service by default, but it is in that place that they're supposed to find their greatness.
Wow, that's definitely powerful. You said the name of the title of one of your books. I think that's such a powerful title. Can we talk about this briefly? Like, repeat it out.
A setback is a setup for a comeback. Amen. And that's the truth. A setback set up for a comeback. So I got fired, replaced by a karaoke machine. And as a result of that, I started speaking. And within a decade, less than a decade after starting to speak, I was named one of the top 5 speakers in the world by Toastmasters International. Now, joining a group of only 50 people in the world who have ever been given that honor. Colin Powell, Norman Schwarzkopf, Nelson Mandela, Margaret Thatcher, Christopher Reeve. Only 50 people have ever been given that honor. And then on top of that, from that is the fact that grew the books, the Sirius XM radio, daily television, all sorts of opportunities to speak literally around the world. So if I hadn't gotten fired, I would never had that opportunity. And so you're going to have setbacks. But it's about 2 things. And 2 things I want to share with people are critically important. And I'm going to be sharing this when I come to speak at your events.
Thank you, sir.
All right? 2 things that make a difference. It's mindset, skill set. Mindset is about attitude. When you shift your attitude, your thinking, you can shift your results. And then skill set is about excellence. That whatever you do, you make a commitment that you're going to be taking on the Kaizen principle, the Kana principle, the constant and never-ending improvement principle is excellence. There's no such thing as perfection in the race for excellence, because excellence has no finish line. Every day I can get a little better. There's no perfect game. It's every day I can do even better. So what we want to do is help people to grow and go to the next level. And that skill set and mindset put together, and that creates massive achievement.
It's interesting. Let's just take a focus point on this topic right there. A lot of people in the automotive industry, they don't have any type of structure or reinforcement for the way that their mindset is. There's a lot of bubblegum and just little temporary fixes, band-aids as far as word tracks, objections, and rebuttals. But a lot of these people don't have their mindset. Can you talk about, sir, why you feel that's so important, the positive mindset or the proper mindset?
See, what we find happens is people get involved in the industry, whatever the industry, and just happen to be talking about auto industry, and they get into a new job, and the people teach them selling skills, closing skills. They teach them a skill set, but before you teach the skill, I believe you must instill the will. The will becomes before the skill, because there's going to be time when you have a skill set that is not going to work that day. You didn't close the sale. It didn't happen. The person you were expecting, you're waiting for them to come back and sign the contract, and they cancel. Something happened and they get depressed, and you get depressed, you get discouraged, you're ready to give up. But if you have a mindset that this is part of the problem, I'm part of the process, and it's just no big deal, this is a problem that we can overcome. And when you get that kind of mindset, you just keep bouncing back. When I was a little boy, John, my mom bought my brother and I one of those blow-up dolls that you hit that had a weighted base. You hit it and bounce back, and you hit it and bounce back. And our goal was to hit it and keep it down, but it would always bounce back. So we would hit it with everything we had, but it always bounced back. But after a couple weeks of trying to keep it down, we'd leave it alone for a little while, and then we'd sneak up on it. And when it wasn't looking, we'd hit it with everything we had, but it would always bounce back up.
Right.
Same is true for life. Life is going to hit you sometime, knock you down, and you got to bounce back up and keep hitting you down. And if you do it long enough, life will leave you alone and go find a wimp it can keep down. But every now and then, when you least expect it, life is going to come up on your blind side and hit you with something you didn't expect. And that's when you got to have this will, this skill set of mindset to control, attitude, that you bounce back up, look life in the eye and say, life, you may knock me down, but you'll never keep me down. I'm a comeback kid. I'm going to win. So the clients didn't do what they said. So we had a bad day. So we had a bad week. We are not over by a long shot. We're going to win. And when you get that kind of mindset, that you start to become a winner, that's the kind of mindset that Michael Jordan had with the Chicago Bulls. That's the kind of mindset that a Joe Montana had with the 49ers. That's a mindset that says somehow, some way we're going to win. And that's what I want to instill into people, is help them to partner that great mindset with the great skill set so they can become massively successful.
Now one thing that I thought was absolutely incredible, you joke around and you say a small little company. You know what I'm leading you up to.
I think I know where you're leading.
So again, when people ask me, why did you pick Dr. Willey Jolley to be the keynote speaker? And we've never had a keynote speaker at the Internet Sales 20 Group before that was outside the automotive industry. Well, it was for a whole bunch of different reasons. I actually listened to the audio book, Setback is Set for Comeback. I was blown away. Met you at the NSA convention. But when I found out from you, because I didn't know the story about Ford, I did the research, I was shocked about what involvement you had with Ford Motor Company. Can you share
mean that little company called Ford?
Yeah, a little company called Ford.
In 2009, most people know Ford was the only one of the big three big three automakers to reject a government bailout.
Yes.
Okay, everybody knows that. What most people might not remember or be aware of was that 3 years earlier, Ford was on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah, I remember actually.
All right. And in 2006, Ford was on the brink of bankruptcy. Most people know Ford over the years has had as high as 50% market share. Worldwide global sales for automobiles. Over time, Ford's market share decreased. And then one day they woke up and they were 15%. So they brought in a new CEO who said, we got to change the culture. We had a business named Alan Mulally. And he said, we got to find people who can help us to change the culture. And one of the Ford execs said, there's this guy I heard speak in Florida. I bought his book. It's called A Setback, Set Up for a Comeback. This guy was just incredible, da-da-da. They called me and I got this conference call, a notification, we want to have a conference call with you. And they said, we have heard great things about you, that you were just incredible speech, incredible message. We need your help. We got to get 25,000 people to take a buyout. This has been going on for a number of months and it hasn't worked. We either have to get it done now or we have to start cutting people, which would be bad PR, which would hurt our efforts. We got to get them to take this buyout. We're giving away $100,000. $100,000 cash, 4 years college, and 4 years health insurance. But many of the people are not taking it because many of them are generational Ford workers. Their daddy worked for Ford, granddaddy worked for Ford. They don't know anything other than Ford. Many of them are frightened and afraid. Many of them think that this is going to turn around tomorrow and they're going to be like it used to be, where we had 3 bustling shifts and we even had people who were overtime. That's not going to happen. It's changed. We need help. And so I worked for Ford in 2006. And we went on a campaign all over the country to talk to Ford workers about not just taking a buyout, but more importantly about living their dreams, living their possibilities, not letting their fears stop them from living their faith. And I'm very grateful that the buyout was taken the last week of November 2006, and 38,000 people took the buyout.
They only needed how many?
25,000.
And 38,000 took the buyout.
38,000 took 50% more than what they anticipated. That was 2006. 2007, they hired me again. We did television spots that they played in the plant about excellence and a positive mindset and about working together. And then they hired me again in 2008. So 2006, tour, 2007, television, 2008, another tour of creating world-class vehicles. We talked about world-class vehicles and not settling for anything less than the best, constant and never-ending improvement, Kaizen principle. As you know, I said, 2009, Ford was the only one positioned to take to reject the government bailout, and since then they've had billion-dollar quarters. So what happened? From losing $1 million a quarter before 2006 to making $1 billion a quarter after 2009. Did the economy change? Yeah, it went down.
Right.
Did the circumstances change? Not for the better. Well, what changed? Mindset, skill set.
I am just like really, because I'm a car guy, 15 years in the industry. I'm young, but this is all I know. So to be sitting next to a person that had that much macro influences, it's really awesome. What does that feel like to be able to know that you've influenced tens of thousands of people, if not more?
Let me tell you what it feels like. I'm very honored, but what really is the guy from Ford who I met, who said that his granddaddy worked for Ford, his father worked for Ford, and he had been working for Ford for 35 years. He was only in his early 50s. He said he started as a teenager. And he said, I'm going to take the buyout. And he started a Subway sandwich shop. And now he has 12 Subway sandwich shops around Michigan. But more importantly, what I think about was when I first started working with Ford, some people, when I told them I was helping Ford to change their company, some people laughed. Oh yeah, Ford, they made fun of Ford. They talked bad about Ford. They said, you working with Ford? I had some agents and people like that who just laughed at me when I told them I was working with Ford. But I said, Ford is going to come back. The auto industry is going to come back. You just wait and see. And I was confident. I didn't know how, but I believed that. And when Ford came back, I called them folks who laughed.
Absolutely.
And I called those ones who said that the auto industry, U.S. auto industry, was not going to survive. We have seen it come back. And it's all about having a mindset and skill set. And as for Ford and the success there, and then the Detroit Free Press and the Detroit Press wrote a wonderful article about this guy named Willey Jolley. Then GM called, and others have called, and I work with a number of the Fortune 100s, Fortune 500s now around the world to help them to improve productivity and performance.
Let's talk about just a couple of those. You work with General Motors.
Yep.
You work with
Walmart.
Verizon.
Yep. Prudential. Chevron, Dell Computers. We've been with a lot of the big companies and helping them to see that the potential and possibilities are unlimited. Here's what I think about most people and most companies. Most people, most companies, they're living their life about here, but their potential is about here, and there's a gap. And they want to close that gap, but they're not quite sure how to close the gap. And that's what they bring me in to do, help them close the gap.
Well, I want to talk about, just for a couple minutes, I want to give you, from my perspective as a consultant, some of the challenges that I see car dealerships, because I don't know if you heard, but I've trained about 8,500 automotive professionals.
I've been hearing about you. Let me tell you, young man, I've been hearing about you in places you would not expect, okay? I've been hearing lots about this young guy out of New Jersey who's burning up auto business industry with his internet sales skills.
Thank you, sir.
I've heard nothing but great things.
I appreciate that. That definitely means a lot, especially coming from you. But I want to give you some of the challenges that I see with dealerships, and I want you, just to give, just off the cuff, what your reaction or some of your feedback might be. Okay, let's start with that book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
Okay, this is one of the epidemic problems. It's almost like a plague in our industry, is that they don't want to change. And I, like you, concur that the Kaizen, the art of continuous improvement, I believe personally that if you're not in a state of evolution, you're in a state of permanent transgression.
Right.
So one of the challenges that I see as a consultant is I go into dealerships and they don't want to change. They want to keep doing what they've been doing and getting what they're getting and then complain about it. So what do you say to the majority of dealerships that are keep doing the same antiquated tactics, the same voicemail messages, the same marketing strategies, the same HR strategies, the same reward consequence strategies? How do you get to them?
I say this is so funny. I went to the new car dealers show in Washington.
Okay.
Washington Auto Show. They invited me, the Washington Area New Auto Dealers Association invited me to be their guest. They said, pick up your pass at the guest will call. I get there, I say, hi, this is Dr. Willey Jolley. I'd like to get my pass. The young lady says, oh, yeah, we saw your pass here a little earlier. We know your name. I said, well, you might know my name from radio here in the Washington area. They said, oh, no, we don't. She said, I don't listen to radio. I said, you don't listen to radio? She said, no. I listen to Pandora or Rhapsody. I said, really? She said, yeah. I said, well, maybe you see me on TV. She said, oh, no, I don't watch TV. In fact, I don't have cable. I said, what? She said, no, I don't have cable. I said, well, what do you do? She said, I do Netflix and Hulu. And I have a smart TV, that's it. I said, you don't watch cable? Nope. And then another young lady came up on the side who was sitting there and said, me either. And then another young guy came up and said, me too. I don't have cable. I don't listen to radio. And I said, oh, okay, I see what's happening. The world is changing. And if you don't change with it, you're going to be left behind. So I went back home and told my staff, we're going to make sure that our messaging is available on Pandora, on Rhapsody, on Hulu, on Netflix. We're going to make sure that we're going to move with the market. Because otherwise, you're going to get left behind. And you will be like the leather makers who were still trying to make leather whips and leather saddles, and the horseless carriage was working. And so the smart ones said, we're not going to make leather whips for the horse, we're going to make leather seats for the horseless carriage. So I just say it like this, for those who are not willing to change, you either change now or you change later. You either pay now or you pay later. You're going to pay. You're going to change. It's just a matter of time. Three strategies for change. Step number one, option number one, change is inevitable. So option number one, stand in front of the change train, the supersonic train, and say, I'm not moving. It's going to run you over. Option number two, step back and look at it go by. It will pass you by. Option number three is get on board. Ride it and learn about it. And if you're smart, you'll drive it. And those who drive change the world.
Okay, and the last point about the dealerships that I want to just get your opinion, your feedback on is that this might sound crazy, especially coming from someone at your caliber, but in our industry, most of these multi-million-dollar businesses do not invest in training their people. They believe in the McDonald's concept of churn and burn. They just hire them, blow them out, hire them and blow them out. And I was actually watching, it's funny, I was just watching Dr. Covey had a video called Everest. It was one of the facilitator videos. And in the beginning, it talks about how Dr. Covey was saying that the industrial age used to articulate liability assets. In industrial age, they would say employees were liabilities, where a factory machine might have been an asset. And he said that he disagrees, that employees are definitely in the asset column. I agree as a trainer, as a consultant, it just floors me, and I want to get your opinion working with Fortune 100, Fortune 500 corporations. How, I don't know, crazy is that notion that people are not assets, so to develop, to nurture, to train, to motivate, to inspire. That's something I want you to tell these dealers.
Here's what I want to tell dealers.
Please.
Great people give great service. Good people give good service. Mediocre people give mediocre service. And negative people will kill your organization. So if you're not developing and growing your people, you're not going to grow your organization. Now, some people say, well, you know, here's my problem. I invest in these people, I get training for them, and they leave. Well, my question to you is, what happens when you don't invest with them, you don't give them any training, and they stay? You wonder why the business is not growing. Do you ever wonder why the Fortune 100, the McDonald's, the Fords, the GMs, the Dell Computers, the Verizons, the Walmarts, the biggest company, bring in speakers like myself and pay me a good fee to come and speak and motivate their people? Because they figured it out. How did they get there? And how do they stay there? If you're serious about growing your business, you grow your people.
I don't know if you know, but me and Karen had the opportunity to meet Dr. Covey. I've actually got video with me and Dr. Covey, and you know, it was really cool. So what was that like to be on tour with him and work with him?
We developed a friendship that was very unique and very special. We realized that we had a lot of friends in common, like Gladys Knight and a few others, and he was just a nice man who really wanted people to really succeed at the highest level. And so that 7 habits are highly effective. Here's the thing that I said, what was the most impactful of the 7 habits? And he said, it's very simple, win-win. If you help enough other people win, you'll win more. And he said that was the critical core fundamental, foundational principle.
Well, I concur 100%. I agree. And that is one of the main reasons why we booked you to be speaking at the Internet Sales 20 group. So what are your thoughts? Have you ever spoken to an automotive workshop before?
No.
For these? Okay, so let me tell you the audience.
This is exciting.
I'm excited that you're excited, and I'm excited you're there. We're going to have approximately 140 to 150 car dealerships that are going to be in there. It's going to be a 3-day event, 25 different speakers that have specific niches like sales processes. All you're talking about the skill set.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You are the only one that's talking about the mindset.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts about what type of stuff are you going to speak about and bring to this 20 group?
We're going to talk about an attitude of excellence. The concept I shared with Ford, and I've shared with many of our companies and corporate partners around the world, how to develop an attitude of excellence. And the 5 areas that were consistent that we found as I went from Ford and Dell and GM and one after another. I went from one major company to another and talked to the CEO and talked to the presidents, talked to executive directors and said, what sets you apart from your competition? What sets you apart from others? How do you lead the field? And there were 5 areas that came out consistently in all of my research. Leadership development, change management, team building, customer service, and attitude enrichment, a winner's attitude. We're going to talk about that, how to develop it, how to grow it, and how to foster it and help people to embrace it so that they can be empowered to go back and slay dragons.
I love it. I'm so grateful. Again, it was an honor to have you here for Automotive Internet Sales, and thank you so much.
Sean, you are a fantastic young man. You got a fantastic organization.
Thank you, sir.
And let me tell you, folks, the best is yet to come for him and for you. So I will see you soon. Don't miss the Internet Sales 20 Group Conference. But more importantly, you stay connected to him because I'm going to be connected with him, and we're going to help a lot of companies change mindset as we change skill set. God bless you.
And we'll see you in Atlantic City, April 8th to the 10th. Again, Dr. Willey Jolley. Got to get these books, people. They're off the hook. Thank you.